Okay, this is the first demonstration of some Second Life based fast driving. Fast driving is one of the things that is just very rarely done because it's so dangerous in Second Life. You're always constantly getting bad crossings, and there's a lot of reasons why fast driving is really not very fun on Linden roads. It's fine if you're on a racetrack that's just a single sim, but you know, when you're trying to do it going through 100 regions, well, it's a little different. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about how it can be optimized. I don't think it's ever going to be entirely nice, but you can certainly make it better than you would have with just an off-the-shelf car. Okay, so the first thing to look at is right up here. This is the mini-map. So the mini-map is not exactly like the main map. See, the main map kind of shows a lot of overhead view stuff, and you can kind of see where the roads are, but the detail is not that high. But the mini-map has got some very important features. You can see these grid lines that show actually where the regions meet. And so I'm currently almost approaching the top corner of this region that I'm in right now called Chongo. And then I'm going to go into Samoshi, and then if I stay on this road, very, very quickly after that, I'll go into Baksek. So this is one of the more dangerous things, although sometimes these corners are right in the middle of the road where it's just the worst situation. And so what you want to do is always be aware that it takes a little bit of time to go successfully from one region to the next. So in order to do that with a fast car, you have to give yourself at least a little bit of space as you go through. So I'm going to go over to this side, and I need to shift down a little bit. So this has somewhat mitigated the danger of going through a multiple region crossing, but I'll talk a little bit more about that as I keep going. Now, I expect, because I'm actually just driving very recklessly, trying to show off that it is possible to go fast in Second Life, I'm expecting that there are going to be some issues, because this is really fast. This is like 75 miles an hour, 80 miles an hour, which is just kind of, you know, not smart for Second Life. But it can be done with the right equipment and the right methods. So we need to use the mini-map to kind of predict when we're going to end up with a region crossing. Now, when you go through a straight region crossing like that one, it does upset things just very quickly. You can see the camera just kind of stopped for a bit, but it generally just slides right through if it's straight across. Not too much problem. And this is, what gear am I in? Yeah, so 7th gear is about 75, 80 miles an hour. And I think that's pretty darn fast for Second Life. So right now we're going through a parallel region crossing. You can see I'm going from, this is actually one of the worst parts of Zhuzhou. I'm going from this region here, which is called Pack, and then it's just going to slide kind of skewed over, like right here. I'll slide over into the next region, and then right after that we'll go into a third. So what I do is shift down a few gears, and 5th is even too fast. But if I just feather the throttle a little bit, then I'm going to be a little bit safer. Anyway, you can kind of see how that went pretty well for a crossing that, if you weren't looking at the mini-map, you'd really be in trouble there. You'd probably just end up with a complete failure. So the thing about cars in Second Life is that, and I found this out the hard way, most cars are designed to sell. They're not really designed for doing this, for getting from one place to another on the roads that Lyndon has built for us. So they have a lot of extra bells and whistles. You know, they have things like doors that open. They have all these different scripts. And let me just turn around so I can go back to my shop here. This car that I'm driving here has a very old style driving script in it. It's a driving script that has the ability to have different turn radius. So when I'm in first gear, which is a very slow gear, the turn radius is really very tight. And then as I go through the gears, the turn radius gets wider and wider and wider. And this is important because most of the time when you buy a car, especially if it has ACS or one of the other drop-in scripts, the first thing that you realize is, I can't control this thing. It turns way too aggressively, and then even when you try to make adjustments, the adjustments only work for one speed. And so that's why I wanted to use a script that had the ability to have different turn ratios depending on the gear that you're in. So we're going to go through that bad crossing again from the other side. And so we just try to shift down a little bit here, and let's make it through the first crossing, which is on this side of the road, and then we have to slide over to this crossing, which is a little skewed crossing. You kind of see the car almost acts like it went the wrong way over railroad tracks right there. And then we have the final crossing before my shop. So once I get to my destination, the car will actually pivot, but if I drive it, you can see the turning radius is just no good, and so I need to shift down to first gear probably in order to, properly park this car. But that's one of the reasons why this thing is so good at driving on Lyndon roads. The other reason is the scripts in the car amount to 640K. And let's just, first of all, have a look at my own scripts. I'm driving with basically nothing but my AO. I don't have any other HUDs except for the GTFO HUD, and I'm going to detach that. So if I look at my script count here, I'm currently, I have, I'm not sure how many that is, 2, 3, 4, 5, it's 11, and 1.424 megabytes of memory. So the avatar is actually using more. And if I detach the AO, it doesn't really help all that much. So it's 1.2 megabytes. I believe that this should be a large B. I don't think those are bits. I think they're bytes. Anyway, I'm going to just pull out like one of the more recent cars that was just like a gift. And it's probably got ACS in it. And I have nothing against ACS. In fact, I have a few cars that run on ACS, but I'll just want to demonstrate what happens with, geez, I can't find anything. with cars out of the box, before you do any kind of tweaking to them. Yeah, we'll try this one here. I think this is the one I was using. So I'll use the city version of this this SUV. So it's an ACS scripted car, and we just need to turn it on. And I think I want the cruise off. So before I even start, it's kind of already choosing to do what it wants to do. And as you can see, the turning radius is incredibly tight. So any adjustments that I need to make me fishtail all over the place. That's just in first gear. So if I speed up a little bit, same turning radius. And we've also noticed that because of the script count and probably some other issues, every time it goes through a sim crossing, it has difficulty reestablishing its actual orientation. It might not be pointed in the right direction anymore. And it tends to bounce around as we go through the sim crossing. And this is probably what a lot of people experience with cars when they first get one. So the first thing that you want to do is see if there's an option where you can actually change the turning ratio, and what they call, in this case, is turn power. So I'm going to knock that down by maybe 3 clicks, and let's just see what that does to our turning radius. So to me it looks like the turning radius is still about the same, but it's a little bit more controllable. The thing is, though, I'm not really too happy with it, and I have a few ACS vehicles that I am slightly more happy with, but mostly just not, because of this. Notice, like, even though I turn down the turn power a lot, it's still acting like it's tuned for a single sim, like one of those squiggly racetracks. So let's whack down the turn power to something very low and see what happens to our turning radius now. Yeah, it's still, unfortunately, and this is just tiny momentary touches. So I would consider this to be a car that looks great, sounds pretty good, never going to drive it because it's just almost uncontrollable. And that's the issue that we have in Secondlife: bad turn radius and bad sim crossings that don't need to happen, but you can't have everything. So it seems like most people just want a car that has all sorts of functions, and not one that's built for ease of driving on Secondlife roads. There are some cars, though, that out of the box actually drive pretty well, and one of them is the police car from SISM. I think it's SISM. It's called the Intruder, and this one, although I think I did a few tweaks to the turn radius, let me re-establish my hover height here. Yeah, a little lower, please. That's a little better. So this one, you can see it kind of has the same, and it's a newer script too, so they were paying attention, and as I shift up, as we go to faster speeds, the turn radius is not as aggressive. But it has issues in crossing, and I think that part of the reason for that is probably the number of scripts that are in the car. So 41 scripts as opposed to 10, there has to be a difference there. Might not be that much, but it's 4 times the amount of script, so that has to count for something. But this is definitely a much better experience, and right out of the box you get a nice driving car. Of course, I don't think it's going to be the best experience if you want to be speeding like a madman like I was previously. But then that's what I designed that car to do. It was designed to go easily, fast, through all of these changes from sim to sim. And one of the other aspects of a car like that is it has a substantial sliding sled, and this is like an old style design that you would have seen 10 years ago in Secondlife. But a lot of cars now don't have that. In fact, I'm not sure that the SISM even has it, and it's not new by any stretch of the imagination. But let's just have a look. I don't think it has a sled. No. So that's another thing, that cars don't really come with sleds now. And so that makes it possible for them to have things like moving suspension and all that stuff. And it adds to the immersion for sure, but I think if what you really want is to easily go from sim to sim at fast speeds and with fewer failed crossings, and just slip into the next sim with relative ease, that an old style car is really what you want. Notice, like, there was very little bump when we went through that crossing. It was really tough for the other vehicles. But the old style car just slips right through. And this is at 60 miles an hour. We're already going faster than the fastest speed I went in the police car. We'll take it up to almost 80, and it's still, well, it's getting a little bit out of control, but it's still able to kind of handle things. In fact, the computer's not even able to res things at this speed. I would very rarely drive at this speed because I know that I'm going to get unseated from the vehicle if I keep going. But so, you know, the art, yeah, see right now I kind of had a little lag issue, but the art, or the science, or whatever you want to call it, of driving in Secondlife is, there's no real magic potion, but I think one of the things that you can do is lower your script count. Right now, the total scripts I have would be 640 plus the avatar. Yeah, so 2.75 megabytes. You can lower your script count. You can have an avatar that has relatively low complexity. This is 50,000, which I think is still pretty high. And by all means, find a vehicle that is more of an old school vehicle that has a sled, and if possible, one that has variable turning rate. Well, that's how I drive fast in Secondlife. I'm also driving in, there we go. See, this is the same place where I had a bad crossing previously, so I think this might be some strange issue with that particular sim. But let's just stand, reset. But like I said, there's no perfect way. If you really if you need to go that quick, then you just have to teleport. But this is probably the worst sim crossing on this whole road. So in order to get through here, I actually need to go off the road. And I have to admit that most of my driving now is at pretty slow speed. I've been driving the OmniLine bus at approximately 25 miles an hour. So right now we're doing, sixth gear on this thing is 62, 65 miles an hour. So we're doing double that. Yeah, there we are. So that's a bad crossing. Let's see if we can survive it. Now this car will do ridiculous speed, but you're just asking for trouble. There's some speeds that just Second Life can't handle. Even if you're in an airplane, you're never going to survive it. If you go 150, 200 miles an hour, you'll last a couple of sims and then you're gone. Well, we made it through that one. It's probably about 120 or so. So, there's no guarantees, but this is how I do it.